I'm sure you find it as amazing as do the rest of us that the great majority of people have to learn things the hard way. It's only natural to think that if a great discovery were made in a particular generation, that all succeeding generations would know about it and utilize it for their own good and profit. But in many things, such is not the case. It's true with most inventions and discoveries which obviously affect our lives, but it frequently is not true when it comes to the great truths, the great laws which determine the direction of our individual destinies. In one of the so-called backward countries, a group of laborers was hired to work on a farm. Now, these people came from a small remote village where motor vehicles were still very scarce. They were enjoying the new experience of riding in the back of a truck when they came to the place where they thought they were supposed to get off. Well, without giving it a thought, apparently, they just stepped off the back of the speeding truck. Now, fortunately, they fell on a soft dirt road, not a paved highway, but even then, the results of their unconventional method of disembarking were, to say the least, surprising. They went bounding and spinning and sliding and cartwheeling along the dusty road for quite a distance before gravity and friction working together finally brought them to an astounded halt. Well, fortunately, none was seriously injured. In fact, by the time the terrified driver got back to them, they were laughing uproariously about the whole thing. Now, the truck driver, in explaining the incident later, put the blame on their never having ridden in trucks before. Well, that's the obvious answer, and a good one, but not the right one. The amazing circus tumbling act on a remote farm road had been caused by ignorance of a law that operates the same whether it's a truck, a boat, an airplane, a bullet, or any moving body. Sir Isaac Newton gave us the law, and it goes like this. A body in motion tends to remain in motion until acted upon by an outside force. When the workers stepped off the back of the speeding truck, they were going the same speed as the truck itself. The outside force was gravity, which pulled them down to the road, still traveling at the same speed, and, well, you get the idea. They'd been hurt and confused and frightened and turned upside down because of their ignorance of a law of physics. They might have been killed. All over the world, there are millions of people who are being hurt and confused and frightened and whose lives are turned upside down because they don't understand the principal law on which everything in the universe operates, the law of cause and effect. Now, this law has been written thousands of times by the greatest minds the world has produced, and as a result has appeared in many forms. For our purposes, it might best be put this way. Our rewards in life will always match our service, cause and effect. It's another way of saying, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. And it's been written in many ways in every language on earth. Sir Isaac Newton, in promulgating his laws of physics, put this one in this way. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, in saying our rewards in life will always match our service, you'll almost always get general agreement. People will nod their heads and say, yes, that's certainly true. They will then go their ways and never realize, for the most part, how close they came to a truth so great and all-enveloping that their every thought and action is affected by it. I like to think of this law in the form of a giant apothecary's scale, the kind with a cross arm from which hang two bowls on chains, and one of the bowls is marked rewards. The other is marked service. Now, whatever we put into the bowl marked service, the world will match in the bowl marked rewards. How we think, work, talk, and conduct ourselves is what we have to put in the bowl, marked service. And the extent and nature of our service will determine our rewards. If any person alive is discontented with his rewards, he should examine his service. Action, reaction. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. What you put out will determine what you must get back in return. So simple, so basic, so true, and yet so misunderstood. If a business is not expanding to the quick and exciting tempo of the times, it must examine its contribution, its service. If a person is unhappy with his income, he must examine and re-evaluate his service, his contribution. Now, whom do we serve? Well, each of us serves a portion of humanity, and humanity to any given person is the people with whom he or she comes in contact. It's family, friends, co-workers, customers, prospects, employer, whatever those that he or she has chosen to serve are called. Everyone with whom we have any kind of contact is to us humanity. And to the extent that we serve will our rewards be determined. Now, never before in the history of the world have human beings been so interdependent. It's as impossible to live without serving others as it would be to live if others were not constantly serving us. And this is good. The more closely knit this interdependence becomes, the greater will be human achievement. We need each other, and we literally cannot live without one another. Every time we strike a match, drink a glass of water, turn on the lights, pick up the phone, drive our car, put on our clothes, take a bath, mow the lawn, or go fishing, try making your own fish hook sometime, we're being served by other human beings. Every time you look at your watch, you're being served by a great industry and by efforts of thousands of human beings. We all seek rewards, and we should understand that rewards come in two forms, tangible and intangible. That is, rewards include the money we earn, the home we buy, the car we drive, the clothes we wear, and they also include the way we feel, our happiness, our peace of mind, our inner satisfaction, the people we meet and enjoy. But remember this, whatever it is you seek in the form of rewards, you must first earn in the form of service to others. All attempts to abrogate or sidestep this law will end in failure, frustration, and, if maintained long enough, ultimate demoralization. We can see this frustration on every side. We can see it in the tense, strained, and nervous faces, in the mountains of tranquilizers which are consumed every day. We can see it in the slack, bovine-like faces of those who have found the whole game too complicated and have simply given up, surrendered to the push and pull of circumstances. How much of this do you suppose is due to misunderstanding or ignorance of this simple and wonderful law of nature? It's my belief that a great deal can be traced to this cause. Now, do you understand this law, fully understand it, intellectually and emotionally? If you do, you can chart a wonderful course through life. Just as the field worker stepped off a speeding truck, just as a child will put its fingers in the way of a closing door, just as a speeding driver discovers he's not going to make the curve. How many times have you been confounded because you acted contrary to the rules? Not just the rules of man, but the rules of nature. How many times have you been in the position of the man who sat in front of the empty fireplace and said, "Give me heat, and then I'll give you some wood"? People seem to be divided into those who understand that the wood must be put in before they can expect warmth, and those who feel they should get warmth whether they do anything about it or not, or who feel they should get maximum heat from too small a supply of wood. A person's discontent can be said to be represented by the distance between what he or she has and what he or she wants. Once that which is wanted has been achieved, the odds are good that still more will be wanted, for that's the way we are, and that's good. That's a healthy sign. Constructive discontent is what gives us our continuing upward spiral of civilization. So do this if you haven't already. Determine what it is you want. Look objectively at the place in which you now find yourself. Consider the distance separating you from your goal, and determine ways of increasing your service so you can build a bridge across that gap. This puts thinking and creative activity into living. It also assures us that our goals can be achieved by individual effort. A person's world can be compared to a plot of ground. It exists. It's there. It has inherent within itself an amazing potential and is prepared to react to a person's every action. In fact, it must. Now, whatever your job happens to be, think of it for a moment as this plot of ground. In the beginning, there's nothing there but earth. If a person sits and watches it, nothing will happen to it. If he tosses a few seeds on it, well, the rain and the soil's natural fertility will combine to reward that person with a few results for his limited efforts. Action, reaction. It all depends upon just what is wanted from this plot of earth. It is what is wanted that must first be decided. Let's say what is wanted is a beautiful lawn bordered by flower gardens with a big tree in the shade of which a person can sit and admire the work. So the areas for the garden are marked off. The soil is cultivated, smoothed, and cleaned of stones and trash. the lawn and tree and the flowers are planted. And from this point on, anyone observing this plot of land can evaluate in a second the amount of service, the contribution this person is giving to the project. How can you tell? You can tell by seeing what the land is giving back to the person. Planting the plot is only the first step. We're given the plot, and that's all we should be given. It's what we do with it that will determine its degree of greatness and success. It's like the story of the preacher who was driving down an old farm road, and he came to a beautiful farm. The fields were cultivated and abundant with well-cared-for crops. The fences, house, and barns were clean and painted and neat. A row of fine trees led from the road to the house, where there were shaded lawns and flower beds. It was a beautiful sight to behold. So when the farmer working in the field got to the end of a row near the road, the preacher hailed him and said, "God has blessed you with a beautiful farm, my good man." And the farmer stopped and thought a moment, and he replied, "Yes, you're right, preacher, he has, and I'm grateful. But you should have seen this place when he had it all to himself." You see, the farmer understood that he had been blessed with a fine farm, but he was also aware that it was his own love and labor which had brought it to its present state. All those farms up and down the road had the same land, but he had made a glory of his. Now each of us is given a plot to work, a lifetime in the work we've chosen. Like the farmer, we'll be grateful if we have the vision, imagination, and intelligence to build well and successfully upon the seemingly unimpressive land of our beginning. Or we can let it fall into a haphazard condition with no real continuity or purpose behind it, with unpainted ramshackle buildings surrounded by weeds and debris. It's the same land. It's what we do with it that makes the difference. The miracle is there, and we're part of it, if only we're wise enough to see it and to realize that our fulfillment as persons depends upon our reaction to what we've been given. In thinking of ways of increasing your service, read books on your specialty. Read what others have found to work well for them. But at the same time, think of original and creative ways of increasing your service, ways that are unique with you and the way you are. Going at it strong for a week or a month and then falling back into old habits is just like working for a week or a month on that plot of ground and then abandoning it. Before long, it'll be no better than before. Each morning and during the day, ask yourself this question: how can I increase my service today, knowing that my rewards in life must be an exact proportion to my service? Now do this every day, and you'll have started to form one of life's most valuable habits. Horace Mann wrote, "If any man seeks for greatness, let him forget greatness and ask for truth, and he'll find both." You see, you can cut away all the confusion and complications and nagging worries and vague, half-formed fears by returning to the great truths, the great laws, the great verities on which all success, all accomplishment, the whole world is built. If you're worried about your income or your future, you're concentrating on the wrong end of the scale. Look at the other end. Concern yourself only with increasing your service, with becoming great where you are, and your income and your future will take care of themselves. Don't sit in front of the empty fireplace and ask for heat. You're asking for the impossible. Pile in the wood first, and the heat will come as a result. Next time you're off by yourself in a quiet place, contemplate your plot of ground and begin to sow the seeds which will yield you a rich and abundant harvest. In William James' essay on Vital Reserves, he wrote, "Compared with what we ought to be, we're only half awake. Our fires are damped, our drafts are checked. We're making use of only a small part of our possible mental and physical resources." Stating the thing broadly, he went on, "The human individual thus lives usually far within his limits. He possesses powers of various sorts which he habitually fails to use. He energizes below his maximum, and he behaves below his optimum." All right, how can we correct the situation? William James gave us the answer. He wrote, "Either some unusual stimulus fills them with emotional excitement, or some unusual idea of necessity induces them to make an extra effort of will." Excitements, ideas, and efforts, in a word, are what carry us over the dam. All right, Let your goal represent the excitement. Your ideas and efforts will weigh down the service end of the scale, and the rewards must and will follow. They'll be yours. They are yours the moment you realize this truth.